420, as we welcome in our good friend Johnny Mac, John McMullen, NFL Eagles Insider, SI Now, Philly Voice, Jacob Media, Birds 365 Show, Philly Mag. He's all over the place. Football 24/7, 6 ABC. I mean, by the time I read the bio, this segment's going to be over. Johnny Mac, how are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, you need to up the conditioning to get through the resume. I know I do.
I got to put more miles, do a little more road work. So, look, a win is a win in the NFL, and a couple things broke for the Philadelphia Eagles. I thought Minshew played well. I thought defensively they made adjustments. Wilson looked pretty good in that first half for the Jets. But, again, you pay the backup to be a backup to come in to make some plays, and that's what he did. They had the bye week, and it seems as though any type of quarterback controversy, or if people thought one was going to build, it's been squashed, correct?
Well, there was never any controversy inside the building. I'm a little bit surprised the fan base hasn't jumped on it a little bit more. I mean, that's Philadelphia, right? We know the history of backup quarterbacks in this town. I think it speaks to how much Jalen Hurts is liked. I think that's part of it. But, I mean, you mentioned Gardner. I mean, Gardner performed, look, the passing offense was better, and the running offense wasn't as good. I think, Robert Saleh, forget about what Nick Sirianni said. Robert Saleh told you the truth because he can tell you the truth after the game. He's going to lie about the Jets, or not lie, but he's going to obviously make sure he's not going to ruffle any feathers in his own locker room, but he's going to tell the truth, and vice versa with Nick Sirianni. So, said that's what the Jets expected. They couldn't stop it. The intermediate game, that's what Gardner does well, and he was good. First half, 14 out of 15, perfect passer rating. Perfect.
Yeah.
158.3. So, I mean, it was good. And now you bring in the context of who they were playing.
Yep.
And the Jets are a terrible football team, certainly terrible defensively. All of that is legitimate. But you saw people get involved that haven't been involved with this passing offense. It was just, it worked better.
Yeah.
It was on time. The football got out.
Yep.
And you could see the offense working. Doug Peterson always used to tell Carson Wentz, let the offense work for you. Gardner Minshew let the offense work for him.
Yeah, those are great points, right? Because some of his touch passes, even the one throw to Goddard, I mean, you're right. You can't dispute that. You can't deny that. And that's why I started off the show saying, look, he does some things really nice. He does a couple things better than Jalen Hurts. I know I don't really even want to ask the question, who gives him a better shot at winning? They're 6-7 right now. And to go back to what you said and what you've been saying, it's all about finding out what you have in Jalen Hurts. But I'll give you credit because you said this last week. It will be interesting to see how the offense rolls or how the offense runs with a different quarterback. Is it the scheme? Is it the quarterback? Is it the playmakers? Is it the lack of playmakers? And I think somewhere the truth lies somewhere in between, but I still think it's the right move to stick with Hurts coming out of the bye.
No, I agree with that. I mean, to me, Gardner Minshew is a good backup quarterback. He's a very good backup quarterback, but that's what he is. Yeah. The more he plays, the more he's going to get exposed, especially if you get to better defenses, and they're going to start with Washington, and they have a good defense and a good defensive mind in Ron Rivera. Jack Del Rio, two good defensive minds actually running things. So, if you think about it as far as, watching film, people are going to figure out really quickly, well, Gardner can't hurt you down the field, so the better teams are going to start jumping those routes, and it's going to become more difficult, and you don't have the off-schedule ability you have with Jalen Hurts, so that's what Nick Sirianni's thinking. I'll tell you where it becomes interesting, Rich, because this team is firmly in the playoff picture. Funny as that sounds.
It is, they are.
And they have 2 games against the Washington football team, and that's going to tell the tale of this season. I think if one of those 2 teams can sweep the other,
Agreed.
That team's making the playoffs.
Agree.
So if you come out of the bye and this is how I have phrased it, and it's, say, 9-3 Washington at halftime, and Jalen's not playing well.
Yep.
And there's 35 yards passing. They're not moving the football at all. What do you do at that point? That's
With a shot at the
interesting.
playoffs?
That's where it becomes interesting.
With a shot at the playoffs, you make the switch. You make the switch, and then you live to fight another day, and you set egos aside, period. I'm sorry. Because I don't think anything really rattles this kid, to be quite honest with you. And I think he genuinely
I agree.
is a
He's been
team
through
player.
it. He's certainly not going to react like Carson Wentz reacted.
No.
I think he can go back to him next week, the same thing. I agree with you. You got to win that football game.
Yeah.
And if he's not performing, that's when it becomes interesting. Because they would have to go. I agree with you. They would have to go back to Gardner Minshew.
Yeah. That's crazy. You know, and things broke for them, too, when you think about it. Detroit pulls off the upset, good for the Lions, and biting kneecaps. San Fran loses, right? Seattle pulls off the upset. Now, Washington had a real nice win on the road against Vegas, but then Atlanta lost. So things kind of fell into place for the Philadelphia Eagles going into the bye.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, I think Washington is 6 right now. And I think San Francisco's 7, and they're both 6-6. The Eagles are 6-7. They play Washington twice. Now they did lose to San Francisco, so they're probably more focused on that 7 seed, and they have a legitimate shot. Yeah, I think Minnesota's done too many injuries. I think people have checked out on Mike Zimmer.
That's horrible.
You look at Carolina. The Eagles already beat Carolina, number 1. They're firing Joe Brady out of nowhere.
Yep.
They're a mess. I mean, yeah, they have a legitimate shot. If you ask me today, they're probably more likely than not to win, to make the playoffs for this reason. I told you those 2 games against Washington. Now, it's obvious to me if they're able to sweep them. But even if they split it, you have the Giants, and I can't imagine they would lose to the Giants again. I can't. I still find it hard to believe they lost to them in the first place.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to lose to them again. And then that Week 18 game against Dallas is probably not going to have to play in that game.
Yep.
And you might see a bunch of backups and that type of thing.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's been a long time. I can sit there and say I would love to play in a game that would be meaningless for the Giants, but that's not the case. Hey, real quick on Zimmer. I mean, my goodness. You allow that quarterback to go down the field, prevent defense, and then you only rush 3 the last play of the game. How is he not fired?
Last series. I mean, the last whole series he was rushing 3.
How's he not fired?
I mean, here's how I describe it. Now, Mike's been, and anybody who knows me, I have a lot of respect for Mike Zimmer. He's been, I mean, I think he's got 12 top 10 defenses in this league. I don't think anybody else has more than him. He's been coaching defense for a long time. We all know everybody has a shelf life. I mean, he is not telling those defensive backs on the final play of the game to play 5 yards off in the end zone. I mean, they're just not listening. And when that happens, we saw it here with Andy Reid, too. Even, Andy's one of the great coaches of all time. But they stop listening. And when they stop listening, it's over. Look, to be fair, no Daniil Hunter, no Everson Griffin, no Patrick Peterson, no Anthony Barr, no Eric Kendricks. That's part of it. But if you're a defensive, you're supposed to be one of the best defensive minds, and I generally start with Belichick and Fangio and then Zimmer. Those are the top 3 to me. You got to figure out how to do something. And it's over for him there.
Yeah.
No other way to say it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, forget that it was a 4th and 2 because it was the last play with 4 seconds up, but these guys are playing 10 yards off the ball. I mean, and then, just when you think, all right, San Fran's building something, they got a man, that's a stinker of a game the other day. I mean, if you're a San Francisco 49ers fan, you had a big win against the Rams. You went on the road and beat Jacksonville. Okay, you came back, you had a big win against Minnesota, and then you go on the road against a team in Seattle that, let's be honest, Russell Wilson might not be back next year. Pete Carroll, that has run its course, and you lose that game? That's not good.
Yeah, it's not. And that's where, the Eagles kind of lost against the Giants, where I said I can't figure it out. If you're a mediocre team, and that's what you are, you're going to lose a game like that every once in a while. And you're just not good enough. So if you don't bring your A game, you start to read some of the press clippings, you win a couple games in a row. We always say the Parcells rule, you are what your record says you are. That's what it is. I mean, when you're a mediocre team, you can win 2 in a row. You can win 3 in a row. You can start feeling yourself, and then you're going to lay that egg, and that's just what mediocre teams do. Consistency is the difficult part of it.
Can you talk me off the ledge for a moment and tell me something positive when this Giant season ends? Because I believe Judge should have been fired. I believe Gettleman should have been fired. And then I watched 2 weeks ago where your quarterback is injury-prone, but yet you still have him essentially in RPO where he gets cracked. He can't go. Mike Lennon's the worst quarterback. I wish they still have McCoy. I mean, he's lighting up as a backup with Arizona. And then Judge, you preach. This is what I don't understand. You've covered the NFL for a long time. When you have these coaches that sit up there and say, we're going to be aggressive, and then you don't practice what you preach, to me, that's malpractice. That's grounds for termination.
Mm-hmm.
4th and 2, 4th and 3. You're a 4-7 ball club. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah, what was that? 4th and 2, and he punted.
I mean,
we knew we had to get Riley Dixon involved. That's the first time. First of all, I want to be clear. I didn't hear it. If he was quoted incorrectly, I'll apologize. But if he said we want to get the punter involved, if he did say that, that might be the worst thing I've ever heard a head coach say. Did he say that?
He said that he saw positives in the game. I don't know if that, because I would have killed him. I would have crushed him. I don't know if he.
I saw somebody tweet it, so I'm going to check that out because I should have checked it out. I should have confirmed. I don't know if he said it. It sounds outrageous. He said he knew he was going to be a big part of this game. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to say something positive. That organization. In a lot of ways, and it's frustrating, and you as a Giants fan know, I say all the time, I mean, they were one of the best organizations in this league for a very, very long time, and it had to do with the GMs and the coaches. And when they moved on from Jerry Reese and the Tom Coughlin, it was over. Yep. It was over for them, and they've made bad decisions, bad hires ever since. Almost to the point that they're in Cleveland Brown territory. And now you got to turn it around. You got to turn it over again. You got to turn over everything. GM, head coach.
In 5 years. If they want to fire a third head coach in 5 years, McAdoo didn't last through his second season. Pat Shurmur was an idiot. He was fired after 2. So you got the Judge is going to follow Shurmur, who's clueless, and Denny Size menu coach and McAdoo. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is, and I always say I'm the one who's going to err on the side of continuity more often than just about anybody. But I only say that when you have guys like we were just talking about Minnesota. Yeah. You could actually talk me into, all right, turn over the roster and keep Zimmer, and you're going to have a couple years, and then he'll get it right when you turn over the roster and they start listening to him again. Because I know he can coach. I've seen it. So if you have one of those guys, Bill Cowher would be a better example of that, maybe the best example of that, because people in Pittsburgh were calling for his head. They had a couple bad seasons. They stuck it out. They turned it around, and he finally got a Super Bowl championship. And in some ways, Mike Tomlin is going through the same thing.
Right.
Although he seems to always be over 500 no matter what. Continuity is always better, but that's with proven guys. And I always say with Andy Reid, if the Eagles would have stuck through that and just turned over the roster, it would have been fine. But you got to go through that down cycle, and it's difficult to do, especially in the modern world. The Giants aren't in that position because they don't have those proven commodities. They got to turn it over again until they get it right.
They need a new quarterback, and I'll tell you something else, and it pains me to say this. That running back shot. He is so afraid to take a hit, and it's sad to see, because when he was healthy and explosive, it was a thing of beauty to watch. But he just, it's unfortunate.
But Rich, that's just a bad pick. That's a bad pick.
I totally
and it's
agree.
nothing against the kid.
I agree.
It's nothing against the kid, because he was tremendously talented, as you said. But you can't take a running back at number 2 overall. Can't do it in the modern NFL.
Because you know why?
And this is coming off a day where Bill Belichick ran through it 3 times.
I know.
But we all know.
But and I think you would agree to this, right? There are teams that want to build from the outside in or in from out. Like, right? So think about it. What's been the Giants' bugaboo for so many years? The offensive line. So what are we going to do? We're going to draft a wide receiver, running back, and a tight end. Well, wait a second. It doesn't matter if your quarterback's constantly on his back. No, I agree. It's nothing personal. I love Saquon Barkley, but the kid's shell-shocked, and he's done, and it was a horrible pick. And the Jones pick was beyond a reach, and now you're going to have to turn around, and now there's already thought of, well, you know what, tank it, get top 2, either go after Russell Wilson or you draft the kid out of Pitt, Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, and we'll see. Kenny Pickett kind of scares me, because I do think he's going to be the number 1 quarterback taken. And when that happens, he's going to get pushed up the board, and he probably should go, anywhere 10 to 15, but he's going to get pushed up to 1 or 2. So that kind of concerns me. I'd rather go get Russell Wilson if you can. I think that would be the right way to go. And you talk about the offensive line. You're right, number 1, but the Giants have tried to fix the offensive line. They drafted Thomas, who he was 4th overall.
Not a bad player.
They drafted Hernandez in the 2nd round. They signed Solder to the big deal.
Go ahead.
Especially with Hernandez, people think, and I say this all the time, people think you draft a kid and that's what you get, and he's good or bad, and that's it, period. And it's not the case. Player development is real. And you see it with the Eagles on the offensive line with Jeff Stoutland. I mean, they're throwing out undrafted kids.
Yeah.
Injury after injury after injury after injury, and they're putting out one of the best offensive lines in football. Will Hernandez, you give Jeff Stoutland Will Hernandez, he'd be in the Pro Bowl by now. Player development is a real thing.
Listen, you might be right. Hey, listen, 2 more quickies before I let you get out of here. Again, credit where credit is due. We've talked about it over the last month or so. We saw what New England was able to do in those conditions last night, and that's what you do to win a football game. I get it. But all of a sudden, quietly, the Kansas City Chiefs have won 5 straight.
Yeah.
8-4, top of the AFC West. I mean, are you getting more comfortable each and every week that, okay, they're starting to peak at the right time?
Oh, yeah. I've been on that for a couple of weeks now. I said as long as Spagnuolo can get that defense to be middle of the road, not even good, they're going to be the best team in the AFC. And they are.
Yeah.
New England is the number 1 seed right now, but look, Belichick is awesome. I can't give him enough accolades. He's the best coach by far. Number 2 isn't particularly close, but he just doesn't have enough talent. The Chiefs are the best team in the AFC, and they're probably going to hit the playoffs hot as the hottest team, and they're going to go back to the Super Bowl, barring, obviously, injury to the quarterback, COVID. You always got to throw that in there, because you never know who's going to get on the list each week. Anything can happen, but best odds for that team, no question to me.
Yeah, they're starting to, really start to peak. It'll be interesting in a wide open NFC who comes out of that. But we got a couple more weeks to figure that out. All right, Johnny Mac, enjoy your bye week, huh? Big week.
Yeah, not a bye week for me.
No,
they get the day. They get the week off. I don't get the week off. I need a week off, Rick.
You'll be all right, pal. Enjoy it anyway. We'll talk next week.
All right, thanks.
You got it. My guy, Johnny Mac, quick timeout, 441.